y'all? I am back again today because, I like these 2 episodes. Like, it gets it all done in one day, and then you get the other day to relax. No, I'm just kidding. I will do as many episodes as I can, but y'all didn't come here to listen to me talk. Let's introduce our guest for today. His name is C.R. O'Malley.
Hello.
Hello, how are you today?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I know, we haven't had many, managers on. We've had Mr. Ruda, and I think that's about it.
He's
So
okay. He's okay.
I like Ruda. He's a cool person. But so it's not about Ruda today. So we're gonna hop right into it. And who or what got you into wrestling?
So that's a tough one. I know a lot of people will say like they have like a specific match or a specific show or whatever. I don't necessarily have that. I kind of watched wrestling off and on when I was really young, and then around like 1998 when X-Pac returned to WWF and joined DX. That's when I remember really starting to watch wrestling on a regular basis and really kind of got sucked into the stories and the characters and everything like that. And the rest is history, I guess.
That's amazing. So since you're a manager, did you have to train for that, or was it just you did acting or whatever?
So I did, and I think like I've heard all different managers' stories are different, but I trained at Backbreakers Training Center, same place that Squid Sterling managed or trained, and I mean I had to learn all the basics. Had to learn to take bumps because we don't take a lot of bumps, but when you do, you have to know how to take one safely. You have to learn chain wrestling. You have to learn, all the lingo and stuff like that. So there's a lot of that. And then obviously character development, because you got to understand how to build a character. A lot of people think you just pick a gimmick and then run with it, but there's a lot that goes into it. So I had to train, I had to learn all of that. And I would like to still continue training. I feel like, especially in professional wrestling, you never stop training. You never stop learning. And I think when you stop learning, you're not gonna have fun with it anymore. So.
Oh yeah, and I was telling you, I think beforehand, those bumps, I'll take if I have to, I'll take a couple bumps, but the wrestler, like Squid Sterling, he can have those moves, and Bro Keller and all of them PPW stars, they can do that. I'll be on the outside. But
Right.
no, that's definitely interesting because I talked to someone else and they were like, "Oh, you just do some acting classes and you'll be fine." I'm like, I don't think so. I think there's more to being a manager. You gotta still learn how to take those bumps and you gotta become a character. And how did your character become a thing? Or how did it? What's the story behind C.R. O'Malley?
So when I first started, it was really generic. It was just basically a steampunk gimmick, because I kind of wanted to go with the classic old school manager, but I wanted to make it my own, so I added the little steampunk esque attire, and then kind of developed it into, I started managing a heel and started going a little bit darker, a little bit more towards a Paul Bearer kind of character. And then I've been managing Squid Sterling for about, I want to say almost 2 years now, something like that. It's been a while. And we were trying to figure out, man, how do we mesh our gimmicks together? Because, I was kind of this steampunk, everyone calls me a leprechaun, but I'm not a leprechaun. And
I
he's
wasn't gonna say that, but okay.
he's like a rock star. And we
Yeah.
were on one of our road trips to a show, and he and I have both been musicians for most of our lives, and we finally don't know why we didn't think about it, but we decided to go with more like a music. So I'm kind of going more towards like a music manager gimmick. Still developing it, but something a little bit unique. Yeah.
Okay, that's different, but okay. So we had Ruda on the podcast, and he's a heel, obviously. And then there's Delilah. We haven't had her on just yet, but hopefully we will. So do you like? And you were saying about being a character. Do you like? And you said at one point you managed a heel. Do you think that like matches up? Like if you manage a heel, do you become a heel? Like kind of like a Ruda kind of thing, or
Um,
like your own? You like your own character kind of.
right. I try to mesh as much as I can with whoever I'm managing. So I like to see when I see somebody with a manager, I like to see something that like connects them. Like, so it doesn't look like, oh, that person was just thrown with that manager. It doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
um, even if it's like, wearing, if their attire is red, wearing like a red shirt or something like that.
Oh.
But as far as I can work heel, I can work face. I started off as a face, which I didn't like originally, but I'm glad I did because it's so much harder to be a face than it is to be a heel in professional wrestling. It is so much harder to get people to cheer, especially being a manager, because as a babyface manager, you can't really do much
Yeah.
except for cheer and like. So I do like being a heel a little bit more because I get to rile people up. I get to make people mad at me, and sometimes they call me names like Leprechaun, but it's fine. But it's a fine line with managers. It's you just kind of gotta be able to mesh with a ton of different kinds of people because you never know, if they're gonna say, "Hey, we want you to manage this person," or "Can you manage this person?" And you got to be able to work with whoever.
No, definitely. I mean, that like the whole thing about character wise is like in real life, I am a soft baby face. And I don't think like if I had to be a heel, that would probably be the worst thing ever because one, I'm always smiling, two, I'm always laughing. So how am I not going to smile and laugh? Especially like if someone says try to be serious, it's absolutely not going to happen.
Right.
But so what is like other than the crowd, what would you say is your favorite thing about wrestling?
I think I love everything about wrestling. I think now it's kind of personally for me, it's the camaraderie with everybody. You know what I mean? Like,
Definitely.
yeah, it's the one place where I feel like with the fans, with the wrestlers, with everybody, I just feel like I belong. And it's you kind of always look for that place where you belong, especially, you know, I'm not young, but when you're young, you kind of look for that group of people that like you fit in with, and that's one of the things I love about it. But also just traveling. I love traveling. I love seeing different places that I've never been before, and getting lost or taking a wrong turn somewhere and trying to figure out where you're at, and discovering random stuff in these little towns that you work in, throughout the
Yeah.
states.
No, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I that's why like because I'm young and I'll admit that I'm young. I'm not a leprechaun, but I'm young. But I'm obviously graduating school like next year. So I was like, I kind of want to go to a different school. Like I was thinking first Jersey, but then I'm like, but everyone I know is out here. Like PPW is out here. And like I guess you could say I was raised in PPW. Like everyone there was like my family. And me and Sabrina, because Sabrina used to be on here, me and her used to say, oh, it's like a family reunion. Like not everyone will accept you outside of wrestling, but in wrestling, they're all like, it's a family. So I
Right.
think I totally get that. Yeah. And like the traveling, I'm like, it doesn't matter where I go to school or it doesn't matter where I live. I could always still do the traveling and going back and forth. It's fun.
Right.
But
Right.
in the chat, my dad is chanting your name because that's what he does. And then we have Sam. She says hello. So
Hello.
hello. She's a big Nolan Pierce fan. So if you ever manage Nolan Pierce, she'll be top
You-
tier.
all right.
So you said like your favorite part. What would you say like is your personal like hardest part?
Um, I think for me, initially the hardest part was the physicality, was learning bumps and taking bumps correctly and making them not look terrible. But the one thing with managers is like your bumps aren't supposed to look great, which is okay. Um, but it was just, taking bumps, because you do have to learn to take bumps, like I said. But then it's also mental, just remembering things. Like if there's a spot that I'm involved in, it's remembering where that spot is and like to be where I need to be, or to be able to focus on what's going on in the match and focus on the crowd and kind of gauge what they're doing, because managers are, they always say the manager is always the either fourth or fifth, depending on how many people are in the match, person, because you have the two wrestlers or however many are in the match. You have the referee and then the manager, who can also, we can communicate things to the wrestlers, we can communicate things to the referees, things like that. If the crowd's dying down for something, we can say like, hey, we might want to, switch something up a little bit. So it's a lot of mental stuff that I feel like was really hard, but it's just stuff you learn over time.
No, yeah, definitely. So like you said, like watching it or it was a match or whatever, like what got you into wrestling? Do you think like is that the moment you knew that you wanted to be a manager, or was it like I just want to be involved in wrestling, or was it like a whole different time period?
So I think I always had the dream of being a wrestler since I was a kid. But then I got older and I was like, kind of second guessed myself a lot and was like, I don't know if I can do it. And then I've known Mike Mitchell for years. He and I went to school together, so I kind of knew about the independent wrestling scene around the area. And then fast forward to 2019, I think it was. I was working at Walmart, and one of my coworkers in our break room was talking about he was going to debut his first match coming up that weekend. And I was like, I kind of struck up a conversation with him, and he was training at Backbreakers Training Center, and he invited me to his debut. And I went and I fell in love with the locker room. I fell in love with the company, with the promotion. I kept coming back for a couple shows, and finally we were talking, and he was like, you love professional wrestling. If maybe you can't be a wrestler, but why don't you be a manager? Why don't you at least try it? And I was like, at that point, I was 31. I'm up there, and I was like, you know what? If I don't try now, I'm never gonna know, and I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. So I went there. I talked to the head trainer, and I ended up signing up, and I guess the rest is history.
No, yeah. Like if you would ask, well, like 10-year-old me, like Harley, you want to become a wrestler? I'd be like, yeah. And thinking now, like I've seen, because I've like go to all these different shows now, and like I got my foot in the door doing the podcast and doing the table and stuff. So it's like, no, I'm okay. I don't want to be a wrestler. So like every time we get a manager on, whether it's Ruda or it's you or like whatever, whoever we get on, I'm like all for it. I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to, that's what I want to do. Like, I don't want to do those moves. Like, no, thank you. But so if a fan came up to you and was like, I want to do what you're doing, like, what would you tell them are the steps to take? And like, what advice would you say?
Um, I mean, I would tell them to kind of try to research wrestling schools in either in their area or wrestling schools that they can get to, because not everyone has a wrestling school local to them. And there's so many out there that you really want to kind of do your research on, what's a good school. Talk to people that have gone to, or talk to wrestlers at shows and say, hey, where did you train? Where did you go? How did you get in? and then kind of take it from there. And a lot of schools will, at least ones that I've seen, will allow you to sit in on like a training and kind of get an idea of what their training is like, because every wrestling school is different. Some will are more intense than others. So it kind of gives you the idea, but I would definitely tell them to at least, try to find a wrestling school and check it out, because, you don't want to, again, like I said before, you don't want to, wonder what if. I would rather, try and say, okay, this isn't for me, than never know. So I would tell them to definitely at least, talk to people and see where they trained and get suggestions from them, you know.
No, yeah, definitely. I think like that's where me and Sabrina stood when we did UCW. We were like, we're just gonna try it. And if we fail and we know we don't like it, we just won't do it again. But if we like it and we fail, we'll just keep practicing and just get better at it. But I definitely with the schools, I mean, the only school that's close to me would be Battlefield Pro Wrestling. And like that's an hour and a half away. And I want to train, but like that's a lot of driving just for like I think it's like 1 or 2 days. I'm like, I don't know. I wish PPW would bring their school back so I could go there, get some training, or just be like, hold on, let me get in contact with Mr. Ruda or C.R. O'Malley so they can give me some training lessons about being a manager. But no, I mean, it's cool. Like I don't think we really have a lot of like managers. Like we said, we have at PBW, we have Ruda. I don't know what happened to Ruda. Ruda's dead right now, guys. But so we have C.R. O'Malley and we have Delilah, and that's pretty much it. So we kind of need more managers. So hopefully once I turn 18, I'm like, yep. I'll just come out and be like, yeah, I'm here with Rembrandt. Rembrandt's serious, and I'm just a baby face. It'll be the worst mix ever, but it's fine. My dad goes and says, "Who is a dream wrestler you would love to manage to in this day and age?
Oh man.
Indies or big time, whatever."
Let's see. I mean, there's a lot of guys like on the indies I'd love to manage. Uh, like Searin Rain, I would love to manage him. He's one of the coolest, most like inspirational people I've ever met. I love that guy. But then like if I'm thinking more like dream, like hopefully one day, um, my bucket list would be definitely Hornswoggle. I I would love to manage Hornswoggle. I already since day one have gotten the leprechaun joke, so I kind of started going into it, and I think that would be hilarious to
That'll
manage him.
I think
Uh,
that'll be top tier. I think that'll be it. That'll be the best wrestling thing of my life.
oh, it'd be fantastic. But then also, if they don't retire before I get the opportunity, the Hardy Boys. I would love to be able to manage the Hardy Boys like one time for like I don't care if it's a dark match that no one ever sees. That would be my dream, because they were my basically my heroes growing up. So that would be pretty cool.
No, yeah, and I mean, I guess as long as you get to see it, that's all that matters. Like you get
Exactly.
the
I don't care if
experience,
anyone sees it. It's fine.
right? Like I got the experience. Nobody has to see it, but I did it. And like at least just a picture to prove.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
it.
Maybe like a cell phone video.
Let's just take a let's record a little bit of it and be like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
And you can't see it, but I did that.
Exactly.
So like, do you think because you said about like people you would manage, do you think if they like AEW and WWE called and they were like, we want you to manage someone on a roster, and they both were like coming at you, which one would you take?
Man, that's a tough one. I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of factors that would end up going into it. But I think I would give the slight edge to WWE, because I mean that's what I started watching when I was a kid. That's what got me into professional wrestling. That was or sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it. That's what built this passion that I have. And I've always wanted to, again, even if I work with them one time for one show, I could say, hey, I work for WWE, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
think WWE.
And as long as you can brag about it, go for it.
Exactly.
I mean, like, and being my age at that time, I was 15 and doing UCW, not a lot of people get that ability. So I was like, yeah, so this is what I'm doing. Like, I'm not rubbing it in everybody's faces, but I am rubbing it in your face. Like, I got to do that and you didn't get to do that. It's as long as you get to do it, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure you were at PBW when it was in Hazleton, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you've seen like from Hazleton to Broadheadsville to now Slatington. Do you like out of the 3 venues, is there one that you prefer over the other, or is it like whatever?
Not necessarily. I would say I have kind of a special place in my heart for Broadheadsville because I got so many opportunities there. I got to manage main event with Gangrel once. I got to manage main event against the Ascension, which was huge. So I've gotten to do a lot of cool things there. But any of them, if they went back to Hazleton, that would be cool. If they went back to Broadheadsville, that would be cool. If they stayed at Slatington, that would be cool. I love the locker room, and PPW was always kind of on my bucket list when I first started training. So the fact that I get to work there anyway is pretty cool. So yeah.
No, yeah. I think I like all 3 of them. I think Hazleton, it was like it's local. That was my home. I grew up in Broadheadsville. It was hot. Like in the summer,
It was.
oh my God, we would literally be melting, guys. Like, not just saying, oh my God, we're sweating hot. No, we are melting. Like, that place, oh my God. And the green turf, oh my God, that was terrible. It smelled so bad in there. It was hot and it was terrible.
And those
But
little like beads got everywhere.
my
Everywhere.
God, I'd be going home and be like, oh my God, look at all these beads in my freaking shoes. I'm like, how did that even happen? But no,
Exactly.
like Hazleton is my home. Broadheadsville, I like the venue, like especially now since they changed it up more. I still like it, and like, but Slatington got a lot of food options, and a lot of yeah, and like a lot of the Hazleton wrestlers are now coming back. So I know a couple that are coming back, but I can't say that because I'm not supposed to know. Shh, secrets, guys. No, I'm just kidding. But if you want to know that, you got to follow PPW and be like, that person's coming back. That person's coming back. But so would you say you have like a dream venue to like manage in? Like Madison Square?
Man, I mean, one of my, I would say 2 of my goals is to work in the Hamburg Field House and the 2300 Arena, the old ECW Arena. I think those are a lot of people's kind of bucket list, but I mean, also, I would love to one day again if I get an opportunity with WWE or AEW, I would love to work with my local arena in Wilkes-Barre. I think that would be pretty cool. I think everyone would love to work in their kind of local arena or venue that they grew up watching wrestling or going to wrestling in. So that would be cool.
No, yeah, and definitely like that's I think what I was saying in one of my last episodes. I was like, if I ever got to manage, I'd always want like my first like debut to be with PPW because like I started as a fan and then I started doing the table and I got like I said, it's like a family now. So everyone loves me because I'm a baby face. And I just don't have a mean soul in my body. So that's why people like me. But so I think if I ever got the opportunity, like when I turn 18, if they're like, Harley, do you want to manage anybody? I was like, yeah, sure, as long as it's with PPW. Like that'll be my first foot in the door, or even if it's interviewing, I don't care. As long as I'm involved somehow, I'm all for it. But so on the topic of like managing, what are like you said, Squid Sterling for PPW wise, who are like some that you manage there?
So I started off managing the former PPW Tag Team Champions main event. Gotta shout them out. I love those guys. They took me under their wing and kind of helped me guide me in my early career. So I always appreciate those guys. Then I managed Tarzan Duran and Brando Lee.
I
Now
love Brando Lee.
he,
Everyone can tell you how much of a fan I am of him. I have so much love for that man.
he's a good dude. He's a good guy. And
Definitely.
now I am managing Raheem Royal. So and
Oh,
then whoever else they want me or need me to manage, I'm open for it. So
I mean, I love Tarzan. I love Brando Lee, but Raheem Royal, like, I like you, okay? I like you. It's not that, but I just some things like you're in. I'm just not gonna say that. It's fine. Like you're a great person, and we'll talk it out at PPW. That's fine.
I just give him a shot. Just give him a chance. He's being managed by me now. Come on,
I
let's.
mean, I'll give you a chance, but not.
Okay,
I don't know.
okay.
I don't know.
We'll take that. We'll take that.
So being a leprechaun, as you say, is there any like hard, like I don't know how to like describe it, but is there anything like hard to get over, like obstacles? I guess you could say. Like
um,
what?
I think for me one of kind of the hard things and something that's sort of a pet peeve for me, I guess, is like people not thinking I can do the things that I can do, because I like to, I like to be involved when the storyline or when the match calls for it. I like to do what I need to do, and then uh, a lot of times, and this isn't just me. This is managers in general, especially guys who aren't used to working with managers. Don't like to use managers. So I think that's kind of the hardest thing is like, hey, if there's an opportunity, if there's a spot, let's use me, especially, for promotions where I'm a heel. If you have a manager, use your manager. Um, Again, if the match calls for it, if the storyline calls for it, but it's that, and then again, just some of like the physical stuff was tough in the beginning, but you get used to it, and I try to go with the flow with everything. So
No, yeah. I mean, at PPW, you're a baby face. I don't know if I can take you seriously as a heel. I don't think I've ever seen you as a heel, but I don't think I can take, even if you were a heel, I'll probably burst out laughing, like, because you're such a nice person, like outside of wrestling, inside of wrestling. So I don't know. I don't know if I could take you seriously. And like that's what like we said with Brando Lee. We're like, you don't even say you can be a heel because it's not like he just has like baby face and everyone loves him, and that's I don't know. I don't think I could see him as if he came out as a heel, I'd probably like die.
I don't know. I think I've always thought that the best heels are the nicest guys. Like
Ah,
all the wrestlers that I've ever met that are heels are the nicest guys, backstage. So
no.
I don't know. Maybe you'll
I
you'll
think
see me
it's
as a heel
more of like
someday.
I don't know. I think it's more of like once you get to know the person more, like Rembrandt and Cosmic. Like I got so close with them, like outside of wrestling. So I was like, their in-ring character, they're like they're heels. So obviously they're gonna do their own thing. But like outside, like they're the sweetest humans. So inside wrestling, I'm like, no, I can't take you as seriously because I know what you're actually like. So I'm sorry, I can't. And I'll always cheer them. And people are like, I don't know what is with you. And I like the whole thing with Paul Bow and Rembrandt flipping each other off. And I was like, y'all, my poor Rembrandt. I don't know how y'all can diss him like this, but that's like that's disrespectful. Next level. But is there anything you do with, like before you come out the curtain, whether it's jumping jacks or drinking an energy drink, anything?
Uh
How you
Not
just go with
really. Not really. I kind of I walk around backstage a lot. Like you'll notice that I'm kind of just aimlessly wandering, and because I'm always in my head. I'm always thinking about like if there's a spot in the match, I'm always kind of going over the match and kind of remembering what spot I have to do, or stuff like that. But I don't really have a kind of any rituals before going through the curtain. I want to get through the curtain. I want to get out there. I want to
Do your
see what the
thing.
crowd is like, see if they're hot, see if they're, cold, see if I have to try to, get them into the match more, if into the show. I'm more intent on getting out there and like performing than anything backstage.
No, yeah. I mean, do you tend to get more cheers or more boos? Or like chants?
It all depends on where. I feel like PPW, I get pretty good cheers. I think people at PPW have come to like me, or I like to think that they have. Uh, and then, other places like I work at in NTW, and I get a lot of boos there because I'm a heel, and they're really into me and Squid's gimmick, so they boo us a lot. So I mean, honestly, any reaction I get, I'm happy with, because as long as they're reacting, they're having a good time, they're having fun. That's all that really matters to me, is that you come to the show, you have a good time, because that means you're probably going to come again. So,
No, yeah. And if they're cheering or booing or chanting, that means you're doing something right.
right.
Not just the
Exactly.
wrestlers. I think a lot of times it's like, look at the wrestlers do this, look at them do that. But like, you got to give a lot of credit to the managers too. Like, there's, like we were saying, there's not a lot, but one that came into my mind, and I don't know if you remember him, but he was from Hazleton. His name was Ryan Race. I don't know if you remember. Oh my gosh, he's another one. I can go on a rant about him for a minute. Like, he's a great person outside of wrestling, but in wrestling, he's a bitch. But no, I think over time we should start getting a lot more managers, and I think we need to get more people involved. Like, yeah, don't you could be a wrestler if you want, but like, come on, try to be a manager. You get to yell at people and like smack the ring and
Yeah.
bruise your fingers. So I
Yeah.
think it's fun. Like, you don't have to get bumps and like get stitched up and all that stuff. It's still equal amount of fun.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people think of the manager as an option,
Yeah.
especially guys that like, I've seen a bunch of guys who've gone through wrestling training and just couldn't, get through it as a wrestler. And I always wonder, like, why don't you try being a manager? You're still, you still get to go out there, you still get to be a character. But a lot of people, and I would love it to change, because I would love to have more managers. I think the more managers we have, the better, because there's some guys that need managers. There's some guys that are really good in the ring and maybe aren't good on the mic, and that's where I think managers kind of come in clutch and help out a lot. So I would love to see a lot of guys, think about being managers if they don't necessarily want to be a wrestler or, referee or whatever. But
No, yeah. I mean, and a question we would usually like say if it was a wrestler would be like, who can we see you facing? But I'm gonna switch it up. I'm like, who can I see you managing? I'm gonna say Nolan Pierce. He's a great kid. He's upcoming. He's like my brother, so kind of works. Be like, yo, you can manage him. I mean, I would say like some bigger ones, but like Bro Keller, he doesn't even need a manager. Or like freaking Mecca. Mecca scares me. Or like Phil Insane. Oh my gosh. He makes me go insane because he's so scary. Like, he doesn't even speak. Like, I'll be like, hi, how are you doing? And be like, just giving me the look of death. I'm like, you have a great night. Like,
there's some guys like that. There's some guys that are just intimidating.
no, 100. Phil Insane's on the top of that list. Like, he's scary. Like, Alpha, I love Alpha. He's a great human being. But like at first, he scared me because he's big and he got the muscle. But him and Phil Insane, like, they scare me. I feel like I'm not gonna get on their bad side. Like, they could crush me, they can break me in like a minute. So no, thank you. That's why I'll be a manager for them if they want, but not facing them.
I managed one match with Alpha Junior in there, and it was terrifying. He is so intense, and then backstage it's like he flips the switch and he's the nicest guy,
Exactly.
which just shows how good he is at what he does.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of people look up to him. Like, he's trained a lot of people. So, like, if I could get trained by Alpha, I'll be like, yeah, all for it. But that hour and a half drive, oh, that'll be the death of me. Be like, I just trained. I'm so tired. I just want to go home, but I don't live that close. So, hopefully, PBW will bring a school back, have someone run it, and, like, I could just train there. It'll be cool. But, like, my dad goes and says, as a manager, what is the most craziest thing you've witnessed at ringside?
Probably Alpha Junior.
I was just gonna say, I was like, on the topic of Alpha.
He is legitimately terrifying.
No,
Love him to death, but he is a very scary individual, especially when he, clicks and goes through that curtain. But craziest thing, I don't know. I've seen a lot of like,
just Alpha.
yeah, I
Just
probably,
like Alpha, we love you, but you're scary.
which is a good thing. It's a very
Yeah,
good.
right? Because I
Um,
mean, people won't fuck with you. They'll be like,
yeah, I mean, I've seen crazy things, not necessarily ringside. I've seen a guy, unfortunately, get his leg broken. I wasn't there, out there during the match, but I witnessed it. Um, but other than that, haven't really yet witnessed anything crazy. I'm sure that'll change eventually.
I mean, who knows? I mean, have you like got injured being on ringside? Like, did one of them ever fuck up a move and like hit you, or you just did something and got fucked up?
Um, I've I wouldn't say I've been injured, but I've been hurt twice. And I say hurt because I consider injury like not, you can't wrestle, you can't work. So I've been hurt twice. Luckily, only twice. One was more of kind of whiplash. I got power bombed and kind of was the first time I've ever been power bombed. So it went well. I just, wasn't used to it. And then I got bumped once and landed on my arm and like bruised my rib. But
Yeah, yeah.
luckily, unfortunately, except for those, I haven't been injured.
Not
Hopefully, I
good.
won't. But if it happens, it happens.
Oh my gosh, I think and that's what scares me. Like, yeah, I want to be a manager, but like, what if I get hurt? Like, have you ever caught yourself being like a self critic? Like, I could have done that better, or like in pictures, or like, do you ever watch your clips back and be like, I should have done that, or I shouldn't have done that?
Oh yes, oh yes. And I'm notorious for, especially with promos. If I have to record my own promos, like at home, um, I regularly will re-record a promo like 20 times because I'll either forget something or I'll, say, oh, I should have said this, or I'll just watch it back. And I think I'm just more to myself, I'm a perfectionist, but even though every time I show my promos to people, they're like, that's great. That's great. And I'm still like, I don't know. There's something that's missing, whether it's, lighting that I wanted to be different, or, I wanted to say this differently, or there was something I wanted to say and I couldn't think of exactly the words that I wanted to use. So more for me, it's promos that I obsess over, I guess, and I probably shouldn't, but I just want to get them right.
No, yeah. And like that's and like I was like it's the little things. Like earlier, I don't know, I was like recording something for I think the podcast. And my mom comes in. I was like, bro, I just had this perfectly. You just messed it up. And I gotta do the whole thing. Like, it's a process. Like, you can't, if you mess up one thing or you notice one thing is bad, like, no.
Right.
Having glasses, the tendency of like is the glare. So like I'm
Yeah.
like, no, that's not the great angle, or the lighting's terrible. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's 1,000 tries just to get it perfect.
And the weird thing is like, and my trainer told us this when I was going through training, and it honestly, at least for me and a bunch of other people that I've talked to, it's true, is like, I would rather do a promo live because then I know I have to get it right because I can't redo it. I think when you can redo it and you can re-record, that's when you mess up. because you can, and it's going to get in your head and you're like, oh man, I got to do that again. But if you're, out there with a live mic, you can't redo anything. You
Gosh.
can't erase it. You can't re-record it. So
And
I
that's
almost prefer doing live stuff because, it pushes you to get it right.
no, yeah, no. I think I can stick to like when I did UCW, I was like, that was the first time I ever got like actually involved in like the wrestling. And like when I was interviewing Tom Mitchell, like me and Serena were backstage, we were doing jumping jacks. We were like, bro, if we mess this up, it's live. There's no going back. Like on the podcast, you get it how it is. And if you mess up saying something, oh well, it's fine. But like in front of a crowd, it was scary. I'm like with Tom Mitchell, I was interviewing him and I was like, I don't know, I said something wrong. And I looked at Tom Mitchell because he used to be an interviewer. So I was like, he'll help me through it. And he's like, he acted like nothing happened. He was like, yeah, so this is my answer. And I was like, oh my God, I was terrible. He's like, no, you're not. Stop. You're doing great. And like, I got that so much. Me and Sabrina were like, well, we could have done that better. Or like, that was terrible. And everyone's like, nobody even noticed. Everyone's like, if we didn't know that was your first time, we would have never guessed. I was like, oh. I mean, I think it was terrible, but thanks.
Yeah.
So I definitely get that. I mean, in front of a crowd, that's scary. Like if I wanted to become a manager, I'd probably like I think the first match will be like terrifying. But as long as you got those like the group of people there and like they're like, I got your back and that's gonna happen. It'll be great.
Yeah.
But
And,
definitely.
it's always scary your first time doing it. My first couple times out in front of a crowd, I was a ring announcer, and the first time it was terrible. But you get used to it after a while, especially around people like basically everybody at PPW, so everybody. It's like so it takes a while, but you get used to it.
Yeah, especially if they have like a crazy name. Like we were gonna have Montekia on here on the podcast, and like something came up, and me and Sabrina, we were like butchering his name. We were like, "More tequila? Is that his name?" We was like, "No, that's not my name." And I was like, even if it's their name, it's like if you mess up one thing, it's like it's over. Like being a ring announcer, I don't know. I'd be like, "Yeah, let's welcome more tequila." He'd be like, "Guys, my name is Montekia." That's fine. But it's fun. It's crazy how like wrestling works, and like you can meet all these different people, and it's an adventure.
It is.
But my dad has a comment, and I'm gonna like switch it up. He goes and says, "Who do you idolize as a manager?" I'm gonna switch it up and be like, "Is there anyone you like based yourself off of them and like took a lot of their skills?" Outside.
So there's a couple different managers that I kind of try to take little things from, whether it's mannerisms, whether it's little things that I say in promos or things that I do. One of my first kind of idols as a manager was Paul Bearer. I absolutely love Paul Bearer. I think I always say that the Undertaker was always going to be the Phenom, but I don't think he would have been as big without Paul Bearer. I think he kind of helped guide his career, and especially with the gimmick that he had. Undertaker wasn't going to talk much, so you needed that manager, and he fit it, and he was an actual mortician, like legitimately a licensed mortician, which was amazing. But then, also, it's kind of a polarizing figure, but Jim Cornette, I love Jim Cornette, one of my favorite managers of all time. I think he has an amazing mind for the business. He's one of those guys I would love to just learn from, just, sit down and teach me whatever you can. And I mean, and then there's even like local managers. Like I love Ruda. I try to learn whatever I can from Ruda. I love JD. I try to learn from him. I think it's kind of taking whatever you can from people that either are better than you at something, not necessarily everything, but something,
Okay.
or have been doing it longer. But I would say probably my two favorite would be Paul Bearer and Jim Cornette.
No, yeah. I mean, that's cool. I mean, I'm not a Joe Davis fan. Him and me, like, we're endgame in the end. Like, we love each other, but we hate each other at the same time. Like, every time I'll be like, "How's your day?" He's like, "Fuck you." I'm like, "I didn't do nothing. I'm just asking you." And I'll be like, "Yeah, go JD," and he'll just flip me off. I'm like, "Fine. Guess I won't cheer for you then. That's fine with me." But Ruda and you, I think you two are my top managers. Where I'm gonna look up the most and be like, one day if I become a manager, I'll be like, those are the two I looked up to. They gave me the motivation to want to do being a manager, so it's cool.
So I probably shouldn't tell you that I am part of Team JD outside of PPW.
They'll just ruin my whole night. No, I'm just kidding. Like, how could you say that? Nah, I'm just kidding.
I just wanted to be honest. I wanted to be honest.
JD's a cool person sometimes.
He's a good dude. He's very good at being a jerk. He's
Yeah.
so good at it.
Even when he doesn't try, it still just comes naturally.
Yeah. Even when I'm working with him, sometimes I'm like, wow, that guy's a jerk. Oh, wait, no, I'm supposed to be on his side.
They're like, you're not a jerk. We're best friends. But so do you think it's going to be like an age thing or like a mindset thing that makes you like want to retire or like call it quits? Or are you just going to be like Ric Flair coming down with a walker, be like, yeah, I'm still a manager, but I'm getting there.
I mean, I hope it's neither. I kind of want to, if it gets to a point where I can't manage, I would love to work creative for a company, whether it's WWE, whether it's AEW, whether it's a local indie fed somewhere. I always want to be involved in professional wrestling in some way or another. So I don't think, especially being a manager, I don't think age will affect it too much, because I could still always come out. I can still, I mean, I'm already getting up there. I'm 35, so.
I mean, it's not bad. You're not that old. Like, you're not as old as Ric Flair. So
everyone says that, but my back says differently.
I mean, once you hit like 21, you turn into like an old lady, an old man. Like, your back be hurting, your shoulders be hurting.
Oh, that started years ago. But
I mean, I'm 16 and my back be hurting all the time. I'll be like, oh, I'll be at work, like my shoulders hurt, my feet hurt, everything's hurt. So I get it.
It happens.
Like, it just starts young, like probably until like you're 10, and then life just hits you. And I'm like, yeah, everything hurts. You got to have a job. You got to go to school. So many responsibilities. Like, geez.
Yeah. No. Why can't we just go to wrestling shows?
Right? Like, so people, if they follow me on my personal, I just got the news that I'll be graduating a year early. So I want to become a kindergarten teacher. So it's going to be funny to me. Like, I'll be a kindergarten teacher during the week, and then on the weekends, I'll be like partying. I'll be like, yeah, I'm a wrestling fan. I'm a manager. It'll be a whole different persona. So I was thinking about that earlier. It's like, it's cool, like how that works. Like, you be one person in real life, and then outside, it's like you're someone else.
Exactly. I would love to have a teacher that was a manager or a wrestler. That would be cool.
Right. And like trying to like, if it's kindergarten, I gotta be like, yeah, there's certain things you can't say.
Right.
Especially if I'm a heel, I'll be like, oh, can't tell them that. I'm such a nice person in wrestling. No, I think it's cool. When I was growing up, not a lot of people knew like about wrestling, especially in the indies. Like, I'd be like, yeah, I go to the show PPW, and they're like, oh, what is PPW? I'm like, you don't get it. It's a vibe.
Yeah.
So cool, definitely. So I don't know if you managed or if you ever been involved in an intergender match, but how do you feel about those type of matches?
I fully support intergender matches, because the way I look at it is the women train with the guys all the time. They're going through, matches during training. So why can't they have a match with a guy during, a show. I mean, and then at the end of the day, it's a show. You know what I mean? We're not
Yeah.
actually abusing women. We're not actually like, I think people take it too far when they're like, oh, you shouldn't have intergender wrestling. And it's like, guys, it's a show.
I
I
mean,
mean, you watch stuff like this on movies and TV all the time. It's fine. But I fully support it. I love watching intergender wrestling. I think it's fun. Especially when you see the underdog, which is usually the girl, win, which I think is dumb. I don't think women should always be the underdog, but especially you have like somebody like Adina Steele who can like legitimately beat anybody on the roster. Um, and I
yeah.
didn't just say that because she's my friend and she trained at Backbreakers also. But yeah, I think there's no problem with intergender wrestling.
Yeah.
If there's a good story there, if it's entertaining, if it gets the fans into it, whether it makes them mad or makes them cheer, that's our job. That's what we're supposed to do.
No,
You
yeah.
know?
That's such a controversial thing. Like people are like, no, men should stay. Like I'm not gonna go into detail, but I'm sure you know what I mean. Like people,
Right.
if you're a man, you should do manly things, or if you're a female, do No, like if they're happy, just leave them alone. Let them do whatever they want to do. And intergender, I'm all for it. And like you were mentioning earlier about Hamburg Fieldhouse, and that's where AXW runs. And like Izzy McCoy faces every man on that roster. And she doesn't win all the time, but she
Right.
kills it every time. And like she was just in a rumble and she got like maybe like 5 men out. I'm like, yeah, that's where women stand. Like it doesn't matter your gender. If you got the skills, just use them. So
Exactly. 100%.
another one would be hardcore wrestling. Have you ever been in a hardcore match, or would you want to be in a hardcore match? Like as a manager, obviously, like a part of it.
I mean, I've been involved in a couple hardcore matches or street fights. Uh, I mean, again, for me, it boils down to if there's a story. I don't want to just have a hardcore match just for the sake of, oh, we want to see blood, or oh, we want to see somebody get beat with a kendo stick or hit with a trash can. If there's a story and it builds up to a hardcore match or a street fight, I'm all for it. Like I said, I've been involved in like two or three, and it's fun. It's a little bit more chaotic, but sometimes it's more fun to have a little bit of chaos. And um, I mean, I've been hit with a guitar. I've been power bombed. Whatever. Let's.
No, yeah. I think I really enjoy like wrestling. Like there's so many different things and so many different cool matches. But me, I think the most that stick out is the hardcore ones and the rumbles. Like I noticed a lot, especially with PPW, with the Royal Rumbles, so many people like that's how they make their debut again. And like that's how they return. And be like, oh my God, that person came back. And like when we were in Broadheadsville, I don't know if you I think you were there. It was when the fans bring the weapon. And some, you know where I'm going with this, but some
Yep.
of those weapons, like how could you bring that to a wrestling event? Like there was little kids there, guys. They'll be like, "Mom, what's that?" And if you weren't there, go check out PPW's page because I'm not gonna say that on here, but you know where I'm heading with that. And it was different. I mean, I had a stop sign. I mean, that's okay, or like a kendo stick or a trash can, but what someone brought was interesting.
We'll say that it was interesting. It was yeah.
Yeah. It was different, especially for wrestling. I'm like, who in their right mind would first of all bring that, especially since there's kids here. But hey, like I said, you do whatever makes you happy. And if that makes you happy, I'm all for it.
Exactly.
Right. So, what are some upcoming shows people can find you at?
So I don't have too many coming up. I'm hoping to get more. I got PPW, I think the 20th of this month, I think it is. And then I have the next show that I know of, and I'm sure more will pop up. I always post them on my Facebook or Instagram as I get them. I have going to be at the Speedy Fest in Binghamton, New York, August 6th and 7th, I believe. Which there's a lot of space in between then and now. So hopefully more shows come up. I'm always at PPW, so you can always catch me there. And I'll definitely be at other shows, just kind of finding shows when they pop up. And hey, do you need a manager? I can manage. Let me manage.
No, definitely. I mean, me and my dad, we got some strings at AXW, the Hamburg Fieldhouse. So I think we'll have to pull some strings, be like, so there's a manager. Because at AXW, we only have one other manager, which his name is Carl. I think it's Doc Martin or Carl Martin. And he's actually going to be coming on the podcast. So, I mean, maybe we got to pull some strings. And no, he's not liked there. So maybe we got to get someone who's liked. So we'll be like, pull some strings and be like, yeah, so we got you on the show. You just got to show up.
Exactly.
No, right? It's cool.
Yeah.
So if people wanted to find you on social media, where can they find you?
So my Facebook is C.R O'Malley. You just search that on Facebook. Instagram is CR_O'Malley. I also have Twitter. I don't really use it much. I probably should. I'm terrible with social media. So that's also CR_O'Malley. And trying to, as I get more social media avenues, I'll share them on there. But those are basically where you can find me, mostly on Facebook and Instagram. So.
No, yeah. And he's not lying when he says he's terrible with answering. I was trying to book a date and he wouldn't answer for like 4 days. I was like, oh, guess he doesn't want to come on because he doesn't answer.
Well,
but
Squid is worse. Squid is worse.
Actually, he answered quite fast. He answered faster than you. So, I mean, I don't know there.
Well, I guess he just doesn't answer me. I see.
Yeah, I guess
it's out now, Squid. If you're watching, I know the truth.
He picks and chooses, I guess.
I see how it is.
Make sure you guys are giving him a follow. His Instagram link will be linked below. So make sure you're going, click it out, give him a follow. Go check PPW out and see what we were referring to and see like all their upcoming shows and AXW and all these other fun shows, and give High Ground a follow on Facebook because I will be there this weekend. So, of course, give them some love. And I will be back Friday with another lovely episode. So make sure you're following me, liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all that fun stuff. And yeah, I hope you all have a great night. Bye.